If there's one thing that every fan of the Yakuza series can agree on, it's that the RGT team knows how to cook up some good fights. As they should, because the #1 most important aspect of any Yakuza game is the combat. We've had so many fighting styles over the past 20 years of games that it begs the question, which ones are the strongest? Today we're gonna look at the top 10 best fighting styles in the Yakuza series, starting with Pirate Yakuza's Sea Dog. Now there are so many good fighting styles in the series that it was very hard to nail down only the 10 best. Sea Dog has a few features that really make it stand out though. First, you have this awesome rush combo with the twin cutlasses where you spin, slashing in every direction, and this is great for crowds. It feels like the flashiness of Wild Dancer combined with the gadget-focused gimmick of Gaiden's Agent style. And on the note of Agent, Sea Dog's gadgets are so much better. Like, yeah, of course the pirate style has a gun and a chain hook, and you know what? Fuck it, let's let Majima throw the swords away and do the old thug style rush combo. Why? Because it's fun. But it's not all offense because you can guard attacks from all directions, which was a skill in Majima's Slugger, but here you don't even need to unlock it. It's just built in. On top of that, there's a skill that lets you perfect guard, and if you land it, you get an attack buff. You also get the perfect guard reversal, which is even easier to hit. There's also a ton of unique heat actions for every situation. There's the sidearm shuffle, where you just lay into an enemy with all of your gear. There's the one where you swing around the boat and take out 3 enemies. They're all very fun and engaging heat actions, but on the topic of heat, let's get to the downsides. In Pirate Yakuza, you can never go higher than a single heat bar. Now, this could have worked if the game was built around it. For example, you can't upgrade the heat bars in the Judgment games. The main issue is the fact that this game also has some of the worst heat gain of any Dragon Engine game. Again, this wouldn't be the end of the world because, hey, maybe they just wanted to shift focus away from heat actions. Except the Madness Gauge, this game's replacement for Extreme Heat, is a meter that is mostly filled by using heat actions. Yes, you get skills that let you charge the Madness Gauge faster, but they're buried pretty deep in the skill tree, and the requirements for some of them are super specific. Like, how often will you be able to hit 5 people with the cutlasses because some freak thought that was a totally normal number? This would all be fine if the Madness Gauge was some generic extreme heat thing, except in this game they just happened to lock in and make the coolest thing imaginable. 2 words: giant monkey. The Instruments of Darkness can be used at the cost of your Madness Gauge, and they basically work as summons. And all 4 of them have at least some value in a fight. They're not broken, but in the late game, once you're able to keep your Madness Gauge always filled, they make every fight into a spectacle, especially in the giant crew fights. These skills add a fun flair to any fight, as long as you're willing to do the entire Devil Flag side story to unlock them. And I just don't think it's worth the amount of effort it takes to get these. Regardless, this mix of tools makes Sea Dog a monster for taking out massive crowds, and this may just be me, but I feel like the AI is way more aggressive in this game. So this style is a perfect fit, almost like it was designed for this game. With that said, one of the major criteria I had for this list was considering the context of the games that these styles are in. For example, take Kiryu's Dragon style in Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 4. At first glance, these games are nearly identical in terms of Kiryu's gameplay, but there is one major difference, being the upgrade system. Yakuza 3 still uses the old upgrade style where you choose random upgrades completely blind, while Yakuza 4 has one of the simplest and easiest upgrade systems in the series, where you can pick any skill you want for the most part. This makes the gameplay experience far better for someone casually playing through Yakuza 4, even though the Dragon style is nearly identical to Yakuza 3. So it's safe to say not only do upgrade methods matter, they sometimes prevent the player from having fun. And Pirate Yakuza suffers in this regard because your skills are purchased with a mix of money and reputation. Granted, a lot of reputation can be earned from doing the Devil Flag stuff, so if you want to get skills and the Dark Instruments in one go, time to set sail. And another unfortunate blow to Sea Dog is actually this game's ring system. In this game, your gear is replaced with rings. They can buff attack, defenses, the usual stuff, but there's also ring sets that have some really cool effects. One of these ring sets is tied to Sea Dog, and its set bonus is really good. When wearing the Voyage, Anchor, and Compass rings together, you get a boost in heat gain, making this game's ridiculous heat gain more bearable. All you have to do is go buy the first two from a shop, and then... Actually, wait, where do you get the compass ring? Oh, it says right here. Sweet mother of God! That's right. To get the compass ring, you have to defeat all 86 bounties. In what world is that normal? For comparison, the ring set for Mad Dog also has 2 rings you can buy, but the Hanya ring is just behind having 50 friends on Aloha Links. Sea Dog is a great fighting style in theory, but it suffers from a rough upgrade path and being in Pirate Yakuza. Next at number 9, we have Brawler from Yakuza 0, Kiryu's primary fighting style. A more raw and unrefined take on street fighting. The wide swings really sell that Kiryu is giving every attack his all, and while it's slower than Rush or even Dragon style, those wide swings make Brawler really good at dealing with crowds, which is a phrase you'll be hearing a lot today, so get used to it. On top of dealing a ton of damage, Brawler gets a halfway decent dodge. The distance on this thing is ridiculous, and your guard is also a dependable option with the ability to get the re-guard skill pretty much immediately. This wide assortment of options is what makes Brawler so great. It's not broken, but just good at everything and has great damage. Down the line, you can even unlock 2 unique counters, one from fighting stance and another from guard, both of which are really easy to hit. Even easier to hit is the subscribe button. If you like the Yakuza series, then you may as well subscribe. My videos are gonna show up in your recommended anyway. And Brawler also has a wide range of skills tied to being drunk, including higher healing from alcohol, increased heat action damage, stun and paralysis immunity, heat gain from taking damage, and even increased damage when you're drunk at low health. The fact that all of these skills are tied to Brawler means that one drink and you've suddenly got superpowers. One of the more broken skills even lets you survive death when you're at max heat, which brings up a pretty important point. Brawler is a pretty respectable fighting style by default, but it gets busted wide open only once you get to the later upgrades, which brings into question the upgrade system of Yakuza 0. Now listen, Yakuza 0 is my favorite video game period, but even I'm willing to admit that locking away the second half of every skill tree behind an optional side mode is very bold, considering Real Estate Royale is basically just a couple of menus in a trench coat calling themselves a minigame. This can be off-putting for a casual player, and so many people play this game without getting to the second half of the skill tree, which is funny considering Brawler's skills are unlocked after defeating the Leisure King, which doesn't take all that long. So while it is unfortunate to have the skills blocked off behind a side mode, it's not much of a time investment compared to the other styles. On top of the skill blocks though, the later half of the skills cost a lot of money, and again, I think it's important for fighting styles to be accessible on a casual level, and these upgrade prices are crazy if you don't know how to farm money. Plus, farming all of that money requires either shakedown farming or Real Estate Royale grinding, which no matter what way you slice it is extra effort from the player. I don't mind bullying Mr. Shakedown for money, but that doesn't stop it from being what it is: grinding. In terms of why I chose Yakuza 0 over Yakuza Kiwami, the Yakuza 0 enemy AI is far more manageable, and Zero's Brawler can do way more damage. Plus, comparing Kiwami's XP versus Yakuza 0's money, the money can be earned way easier in bulk. Some might point out the gear system as a knock against Yakuza 0, but Brawler is pretty much unaffected by it, once again making it a rock solid choice for any player at any skill level for any situation. It's just a great fighting style all around. This can also be said for the number 8 spot, Crane. In Judgment, Crane really just suffers from being overshadowed by Tiger. It didn't get its own skill tree, and you just had to deal with that early Dragon Engine blocking where you do that stupid recoil off of enemies and suddenly your character loses all motor function because this is the worst mechanic ever implemented in a video game. Oh my fucking god. But in Lost Judgment, Crane received the glow up of the century. An entire skill tree filled with a load of unique abilities and a system that rewards swapping between all of your styles for peak synergy. And even though I do think Lost Judgment's combat is the best in the entire series, this video is looking at styles individually, which means Crane has to be looked at in a vacuum, without the other styles. First, Crane's rush combo is mostly mid-speed kicks, but obviously nobody ever thinks of Crane as mid-speed because of what is likely the most important ability in Lost Judgment, Crane's hidden arts. Lost Judgment gives every single style a skill that provides a temporary boost. Crane's is easily the most overpowered, giving you a massive speed boost for the low price of dodging a single attack. Combine this speed boost with the speed boost you get in EX boost, and you become a fucking helicopter with the craziest attack speed. Not to mention the EX boost heavy combo mowing through crowds like butter with a triple kill heat action to top it off. This speed also makes Crane amazing for juggling. Plus, many of your heavy finishers act as launchers, letting you farm down entire crowds in Crane style alone. Now, sure, the rush combo doesn't deal amazing damage, but this game has damage upgrades you can purchase, plus the default damage is so insane that I've never considered purchasing them. I would be bothered by somebody living the juggle combo, but enemies dying super easily would mean you don't get to juggle at all. And I think it's more fun in the case of Crane for the damage to be just good, because as we all know, Crane is not the style used for damage. With that said, it still is on the weaker side for damage compared to the rest of this list, even if you max your attack power, and so for that reason, it is a downside. On top of that, some enemies can block your light attacks, stopping you from starting combos in the first place. If only there was another launcher in Crane style. Oh, right, there is True Crane Beast Slayer, your classic counter using heavy and fighting stance. It hits hard, and is probably the best launcher in the game, and all you gotta do to unlock it is play a totally separate mode. Having to leave the game and play the gauntlet does scream optional side content to me, just like Brawler with the real estate, but I'll let it slide since it's one move and the challenge is relatively easy. You can also unlock the ability to jump in the air and do a few attacks from that. Again, one of them is a launcher, or you can even just use it to dodge. It's not as cool as some of the other aerial combat we've seen in the series, but it's a fun gimmick. On top of that, there's the general stuff like wall jump attacks or leapfrog attacks, and the running heavy attack is a scissor kick that never gets old. Taking into consideration how lenient Lost Judgment's upgrade system is, you're guaranteed to have a fun time with Crane, especially when synergized with the other styles. Crane is a very important part of what makes that game's combat so great. Next, at number 7 is Beast Style from Yakuza 0. Anyone's first playthrough of this game gives a strong first impression, because Beast is easily Kiryu's most destructive style. Dropping all forms of tact, you instead get a combat experience focused on pure power. And to amplify that, you can't properly guard in Beast Style, at least in the traditional sense. You enter a defensive stance, sure, but you still take damage. And to be fair, eventually you can unlock the ability to guard blades and bullets, but you still take damage, so it's not amazing. You do eventually unlock the ability to perfect guard with a hard knockback interruption effect on attacks, and this does do a lot for 1v1s, it's just not insanely helpful considering you'd rather spend your time attacking. Speaking of, you have wide swings with super hard-hitting light attacks. These hit so far and wide that enemies can't really avoid them, and just the light attacks alone do incredible damage. Plus, they can do even more damage if you charge them, but the heavy attacks end bloodlines, especially the charged versions. The deadliest combo is 3 fully charged light attacks ending in this ground pound into shoulder tackle that destroys anything it hits. Your clothesline attack can also be upgraded to always knock down enemies and ignore guards. Sure, Beast Style is slow, but getting a single knockdown on an enemy puts them in a tough spot, because you also get the ability to grab downed enemies not only for leg grabs, but also picking them up from the shoulders for a stun effect. And this right here is actually why I chose Yakuza 0's version of Beast over Kiwami, because in Yakuza 0 you can knock down enemies and walk all the way around them for a free stun pickup, but in Kiwami, enemies get up much faster, making this impossible. Of course, this entire time, I failed to mention one vital part of Beast's kit: the ability to automatically pick up weapons using light attacks. The actual utility is underrated because Beast would already be the best style for using weapons for this tiny thing alone. But Beast style also gets loads of unique attacks for a wide variety of weapons. The most important being the bicycle. You get a brand new combo using bikes, and most broken is the simple combo of light into heavy, which has way too big of a hitbox and reduces everything in front of you to a meat paste. I'm serious, this one move has zero counterplay. This style is mainly focused on group fights, but it has decent tools for 1v1s. At second gear, you can use Cyclone Swing, a move where you pick up the enemy and throw them, and this gives a load of heat, just enough to put you into gear 3, where you can use the charging bear hug before the enemy can even stand up. Then once your heat's drained, you're back to gear 2, where you can repeat the process. This infinite actually makes Beast into Kiryu's best style for farming Mr. Shakedown, combined with the perfect guard for extra security. Plus, if you ever happen to take damage and for some reason don't have healing items, even though they're pretty much free in this game, then you can just straight up get the ability to heal yourself. It's not a crazy amount, and Staminans will do you better, but it's a good skill to offset the whole blocking but not really situation, and it's most useful in stuff like the Coliseum, where healing items aren't allowed. With that said, I can't recommend using Beast style for the Coliseum because it just isn't that good for 1v1 fights. This style is best at farming groups in a single swing and instantly filling your heat bar, but in a 1v1, it's way too risky attacking even once. Not to mention that unlike Brawler, Beast style is absolutely devastated by the gear mechanic, because while it is designed to be slow, at gear 1 it is ultra slow. Considering that Beast style also has a terrible walking speed, terrible running speed, terrible dodge, and the fact that Beast struggles in the upgrades department for the same reasons as Brawler, and you get stuck with a super strong style that's like a chainsaw. It can do some serious damage, but it can take a bit of work to get started. If only there was a fighting style that could also clear out crowds of enemies, had the same utility, and wasn't nearly as slow. Breaker from Yakuza 0 is everything that Beast wishes it could be. It's cool, beautiful, funny, and most importantly, effective. Everyone who's played Yakuza 0 has fond memories of spinning to win, and how much fun it was taking out entire crowds in style. First, Breaker's rush combo is unique in that your heavy attacks can be repeated for a long string of repeated attacks. Especially this low backspin, which I like to call the Death Roomba. These attacks have such a range that you suck in enemies. And even if you're fighting a boss or a guarding enemy, it's still a heavy attack, so either their guard breaks or you slowly work your way around their guard and sweep them to the ground anyway. During your freeze poses, you also get unique counters, but these are mostly useless since enemies refuse to attack you during this. I don't know why they made this skill if we can't use it. This heavy spam is enough to beat literally any fight in the game. It flinches enemies if they try to attack, and even though the individual attacks are slow, the attacks themselves are multi-hit, meaning in reality, Breaker has what is likely the highest DPS of any style in the series. On top of the base strength, Breaker's upgrade tree has early access to damage upgrades, making Breaker destroy everything in the early game for very little cost. And the heavy finishers are great, but that's with the caveat of actually having to reach the heavy finishers. Breaker's light attacks are super flamboyant, have weird attack patterns, and are generally slow, so they're pretty useless in most scenarios. And the best strategy is to just start your combos from a distance and then fly in with the heavy finishers. This strategy does work, and I use it literally every single fight, but I think it's important to consider that almost half of Breaker's rush combo is useless, while the other half is a world-ending cyclone, meaning it kinda averages out. So then what other tools do you get? For starters, you have a good selection of heat actions, with one for taking out groups with a killer 619, baby! You also get another great heat action for when your guard gets broken. This one's especially good for strong enemies like Mr. Shakedown, and I like to use this in tandem with the Rolling Snake from the Training Masters, because Rolling Snake requires heat gear 2 and gives you heat, while the guard break heat action can be used at level 3 and will always drain heat, and if done right is a deadly combo you can repeat forever. Of course, if you want a nuclear bomb, then you can use this style's counter, not the freeze pose ones, but the elbow strut. I'm not sure if the window on this counter is different, but it's definitely more risky because it will deal more damage the lower your heat is. This is a neat mechanic that never really gets used much again, which sucks because this move is so goddamn funny. This move is pure disrespect. Enemies get deconstructed like Legos in front of you. The unfortunate part though is that this counter plus a large amount of power upgrades are behind Breaker's upgrade locks, just like the other two styles. But Breaker's blocks only go away after defeating the final club in Cabaret Grand Tsar, meaning that although it'll be a good crowd clearing tool, it won't be broken unless you play the entire Cabaret minigame, making it a bit much to ask from the casual player. Without the upgrades, it's still great, but with upgrades, there's nothing even close in power. So while this is the best fighting style from Yakuza 0 in my opinion, it's only number 6 because of its upgrade path and its hit or miss rush combo. Now with that said, while Breaker is the best style in Yakuza 0, I wouldn't call it Majima's best fighting style. You probably saw this coming, but at number 5 I have Mad Dog from Pirate Yakuza. Mad Dog is a true rags to riches story. Actually, more accurately, it was like a rags to doo-doo shit to doo-doo dog shit to riches story, but you get it. I'm gonna ignore the other iterations though and just skip to the good part. Pirate Yakuza's Mad Dog is a breakneck fast combat style that mixes flashy hand-to-hand combat and wild flurries of slashes with your dagger. In this style, for the most part, your light attacks are unarmed, and the dagger is mostly tied to heavy. All of your attacks are super fast by default, so you can burst down your average street punk in seconds with just light attacks, but the blade attacks in this game are incredibly unbalanced. It's almost like they didn't test this before releasing the game, but your knife flurry attacks all do insane damage, have huge attack ranges, break guards, flinch every type of enemy, and just mow through everyone. I'm not exaggerating, you could beat the game with just heavy attacks and nothing else. As for tools, Mad Dog gets 3 special moves to mirror Sea-Dog's 3 gadgets. Heavy is a straight line slash with some impressive distance once you upgrade it to the max. Grab is the classic spin move, great for ripping a hole through this game's giant crew battles. And Light is just electric wind godfist, like this is literally an EWGF. And actually, this move is a great launcher for juggle combos, which is another thing that Mad Dog is perfect for. Some of your rush combo attacks are great launchers, but a single charge attack is the simplest it's ever been. Of course, your combos don't end with juggling either, since in Pirate Yakuza, Majima can actually do aerial combos. I just didn't mention this for Sea-Dog since it's way less applicable there. When you perform launchers, if you keep attacking, your character will automatically fly up to them and pummel them in the sky, like something straight out of the Spider-Man games. Speaking of Spider-Man, Majima gets to easily dodge moves thanks to his, well, they're literally just spider senses. I don't know what else to call it. You get visual and audio cues whenever a gun is pointed at you and about to shoot. And although melee attacks don't give that same benefit, you can unlock Perfect Quick Step, which is self-explanatory and super similar to Crane's Hidden Arts in Lost Judgment, where it gives an attack speed boost, but also perfect dodging has this time slowing effect for added flair and a bit of free reaction frames to plan your next murder. Now, since Sea-Dog had the Dark Instruments, Mad Dog gets its own abilities tied to the Madness Gauge. When you have a full Madness Gauge, you can activate the Mad Kennel, or at least I think that's the name, which sends out up to 4 Majima doppelgangers. These clones will absolutely spam attacks into everybody around you, roughly following your attacks, but when you perform any of Majima's special moves, they all have a different effect. When you uppercut an enemy into the air, all of your doppelgangers will focus on attacking that one guy and pummel him with a big aerial combo. The Heavy Slash will make every single doppelganger slash a different target for a giant attack area, which could just end encounters in a single hit. But most deadly, when you do the Cyclone, they will all copy your spin move for the most hilarious attack in the game. The Cyclone becomes an even larger Cyclone where nobody is safe. You also get a cool heat action where all of the doppelgangers focus on one guy. On top of that, the Madness Gauge makes your attack speed even higher. And with the doppelgangers also attacking, enemies get stun locked to oblivion and can't do anything. But you know what's crazy? You can get even faster. Like I mentioned in the Sea-Dog section, the ring set tied to Mad Dog is super easy to get. 2 of the rings are purchasable, and the 3rd is earned from getting 50 friends and Aloha links. This ring set gives you increased attack speed in Mad Dog style with 0 trade-off and 0 time limit. You're just faster. And it's awesome. Once you put on this equipment, you'll never want to take it off. It's that fun. The combination of your already fast moves, the perfect quick step, the madness gauge, and the ring set gives Pirate Yakuza's Mad Dog the craziest combat in the entire series. Plus, if you don't want all that speed, you can still get ridiculous DPS because this is a modern RPG game, and attack power can be upgraded to a ridiculous amount using your abilities or all of your 10 rings. Plus, like basically every other style on this list, you get a counter that deletes health bars and is super easy to land. But with all of those highs, there are some unfortunate lows. First, just like Sea Dog, Mad Dog suffers from the fact that it's in Pirate Yakuza. Still only one heat bar, slow heat gain, and slow madness gain in the early game, but Mad Dog actually has more noticeable flaws than Sea Dog. First, you have way less heat actions in this game, with Mad Dog basically just getting the small list of old ones from previous games, and you don't even have heat actions for downed enemies, period. But you also can't even do a heat action for a front grab in this game either, because there is no front grab. Every time you grab in this game, Majima will automatically flip around the target and change to a back grab. For some reason. This unfortunately means you can't do that funny grab taunt from Yakuza 0, the one where Majima shit talks the guy while holding them, and oh wait, that's right! In this game, taunting does nothing! When you taunt in like every other game, your heat gauge rises, but in Pirate Yakuza, taunting does nothing. It can't even enrage enemies, so it's a literally useless feature. Mad Dog is a great fighting style, and controversial take is my favorite fighting style in the series, purely for how engaging every single fight is. Flying all over the place with lightning-paced blitzes and batshit madness gauge shenanigans is super fun, and Mad Dog would be number one if it were to add back all of the features it lost, and if it was in a different game. I'll be honest, from here on out, the fighting styles barely have downsides, and it's just a massive list of overpowered abilities. So now the question becomes, what's the most broken? At number 4, we have Lost Judgment's Tiger. Do you like destroying entire bloodlines in a single attack? Tiger's got you covered. No, that's all there is to say. That's what the entire style boils down to. The style that carried the first Judgment game came back with a vengeance to make Yagami even more overpowered. Tiger has beautiful multi-hit light attacks and deadly heavy finishers, but Tiger breaks the game the moment you unlock charged heavy finishers, which is instantly because you have them by default in this game. The charged heavy attacks one-shot your average street enemy, and once you unlock the triple heavy finishers, this is a guaranteed method to obliterate 3 enemies every single fight, bare minimum. You can make them even stronger though, for some reason, with Tiger's Hidden Arts, an ability that boosts your attack power after you land a charged heavy finisher. The buff lasts 9 seconds at base level, then 12, but the final stage is something I have to highlight because it does apply to Crane's Hidden Arts too. Of course you keep the buff when swapping, but what isn't mentioned here is that when you swap to a new style and activate that style's buff, the timer on your old buffs resets back to full. And this is repeatable infinitely, meaning in Lost Judgment, you can be infinitely buffed with a mix of Tiger and Crane's Hidden Arts through dodging and charged heavy attacks. Of course, this list is ignoring style swapping, but I found it worth mentioning. On top of the Hidden Arts, there are other ways to buff your damage, like the attack damage upgrades themselves. Of course, I wouldn't know how much of a difference they make because I easily beat the game without getting a single one because holy shit, Tiger is overpowered. And it's not even like the enemies have counterplay because if they try to block, there's an ability that lets you ignore guards while at full health. As for offensive tools, the list is a long one, but they all do the same thing, being massive damage. Yagami can do heavy quickstep blows, charged heavy quickstep blows, Flux Fissure, god I love you Flux Fissure, a new variant of Tiger Drop called Dragon's Crushing Fist, and your EX boost combo is as broken as ever. It's not pure damage because you also get broken tools. You can Perfect Guard, even letting you stop blade damage, and Perfect Guard can be upgraded to transition straight into Flux Fissure, because why not? You can get Regard, then an even better Regard, and then the ability to dodge out of your guard. All of these skills are accessible to anyone, since Lost Judgment's SP just falls from the sky, and the game rewards you with more points for varying gameplay and skill expression. But even without these upgrades, Tiger is overpowered by default. so it's amazing regardless. In terms of negatives, I guess Dragon's Crushing Fist is locked until pretty late in the game, and one other thing that bothers me are the reversal combos, or whatever they're called. The combos where you turn around in the middle. This was the case in Judgment too, but these moves are taken straight from Kiryu's Dragon Engine style, and like, it's not a big deal, it's just a little silly. Like, where did Kiryu and Yagami learn these exact same moves? And now, at number 3, we have the oldest game on this list. And I mean, you all saw this coming, right? How could I make a video like this without glazing Akiyama in Yakuza 4? In a comically impossible, flamboyant, footwork-heavy kicking style, Akiyama takes out demons like it's nothing. The style, the ease, the speed star. First, why Yakuza 4 Akiyama? Said nobody ever? Yakuza 4's wall bounding is basically a perfect match for Akiyama's fast combos. And since this game is the only one on this list with real wall bounding, we can talk about it. If you hit an enemy hard enough against a solid object like a wall, they will enter a falling state, where they're subject to whatever torture methods you can think up, at least until you let them hit the ground fully. Some combos can even be started in the open during the regular falling animation, but hitting a wall resets enemies in a slower fall, so it's more forgiving and way more repeatable. This falling animation is a problem for slower characters, which clearly Akiyama is not. Akiyama's combos hit hard, yes, but most important, fast. It's especially easy to trap enemies with your slash kick, the one move where he just repeatedly does the same kicks over and over. But you can upgrade slash kick to hit a lot through Saigo's training, which all things considered is very easy. Plus, Saigo's final training gives you a damage boost to your unarmed attacks. And why would you ever equip a weapon as Akiyama when your legs are weapons of mass destruction? Wall bounding combos can be hard to grip at first and have a learning curve, but when it clicks, it clicks. And every single move in Akiyama's kit seems to have this perfect use case, and you genuinely start to feel like fucking Neo. First, you can open combos with a ton of options like dash kick, which will put enemies into the falling state, and then follow up with a rush combo or a quick step attack, or both if you manage to transition into a wall bounding combo, and even more if you manage to combo them into objects, or another wall, or I think you get the point. Akiyama's entire kit is built for this, with an ability to dodge cancel out of your rush combo regardless of heat level, meaning you can extend your combos with a quick shoulder tackle. And the destruction doesn't end with regular combos. Akiyama gets a hilarious amount of taunts, which, while niche for some, they are very funny. The downs taunt, the grab taunt I mentioned earlier, and the ability to upgrade how effective taunts are. You constantly get heat regen to burst down enemies with a mix of regular combos and finish them with heat actions. You can even upgrade your attack power while drunk too, which makes you somehow even deadlier. But at number 3, you might think this kit is underwhelming, and to be honest, I've left out the actual reason he's this high. Yakuza 4's upgrade system gives you access to basically every single skill from the moment the game starts, with the Soul Orb system letting you choose your abilities in any order you want, meaning none of the good abilities are locked to the end of a skill tree or a random skill book. Most notable of these upgrades is Akiyama's counter kick, which is again a heavy counter that does stupid damage and grants iframes, and is also a great setup for combos. Okay, I promise that's the last time I say that. In terms of negatives, I guess this game doesn't let you hold L2 to stop heat actions, which can get in the way of combos, but then again, maybe I just suck. My biggest negative is actually that Akiyama can't use the Coliseum in this game, so I guess that means my biggest issue is that you can't use Akiyama enough. Akiyama in Yakuza 4 is the perfect middle ground between overpowered abilities, rewarding skill expression, and all the while making it look clean as fuck. And now we have maybe my most controversial take in this entire video. At number 2, I have Yakuza 5's Saejima. And before you click off, let me explain. This fighting style is pure power and tankiness, but across the entire series, no other fighting style reaches Saejima's level. Not even Beast style, because you can actually block. You have a simple rush combo of 3 lead attacks, each with their own double heavy finishers. So while you do have a smaller rush combo, it's not too limited. By default, Saejima can also let out charged heavy finishers for big damage and a guaranteed guard break. When you catch enemies with your heavy finishers, they can even be sent into the air, which can be used as a combo extender, or you can snatch them out of the air with a grab and spin them in a circle, hitting any other enemies around you. This ability can also be activated on downed enemies, since Saejima is again one of the few characters who can pick up downed enemies. You can grab them by the legs for a giant spin, or grab them by the shoulders for again a free stun. With how often your combos will knock enemies down, this is a super easy setup. On top of picking up downed enemies, Saejima's strength lets him pick up heavy objects like motorcycles. But Saejima can also unlock the ability to rip large signs and boxes out of the ground and swing them around, not only for massive range, but massive damage. I'm not even exaggerating, these street signs let you finish an entire fight in seconds with one attack. And since Tsukimi was designed to have a ton of these on every street, well, you can see the vision. On top of that, in Yakuza 5, when you knock out enemies with deadlier attacks or take out certain enemy types, a lot of random encounter goons will be inflicted with fear, and they'll cower on the ground or straight up leave the fight. And when enemies are cowering, they will be knocked out by any damaging attack, giving you easy insta-kills. So yes, Saejima's kit has a lot of power, but his tankiness is too much to be ignored. In Yakuza 5, every character can get a second temporary health bar through that one annoying chef guy, which of course makes you potentially twice as bulky for any given fight, assuming you're willing to stop at a restaurant every now and then. Even better, Saejima can earn his version of Komaki knockback from his training master in the mountains, which is good for survivability, but you don't even need it. In the 4th training session with Tendo, you can earn the most broken ability I will talk about in this entire video. And quite frankly, this single ability is the reason I almost put Saejima at number 1. Herculean Spirit. Herculean Spirit prevents you from flinching while in heat mode. Period. Your combos become free and have no risk involved. You can't get fucked over by stray attacks while mid-combo, and you can charge all of your attacks with zero risk of interruption. In fact, it's better to wait for enemies to attack, because then they can't block. There is one ability that benefits the most though, and it's in Tendo's 5th training session, Tiger Dragon Drop. Saejima's counter. It's a Tiger Drop clone, but now in combination with Herculean Spirit is actually the best counter in the series. With all other counters, the window for input ends the moment you get attacked, because you flinch. But, and I may just be crazy, I swear this move can be activated after you get attacked, meaning it pretty much has the most forgiving timing window of any counter. This move also has a giant hitbox, so it takes out everyone around you, and also gives Saejima iframes because he wasn't strong enough, I guess. There is zero risk to attempting this counter, because what's the worst that can happen? You get hit? You have 2 health bars. Just take it like a champ and try to land it next time. Plus, even if you land the counter on a strong enemy and they live, the counter also has a stun effect for a free setup into a combo, making this by far the best counter in the entire series. Sure, it would take some time to reach your training master all the way in Saejima's later chapters, but considering you don't reach the city until the very end of his story section, Saejima basically gets a super long tutorial for the first 3 chapters. I mean, the gameplay experience is identical for every single player until you reach Tsukimi, since you only have scripted story fights. So you just get a ton of free skills before you get to the good stuff. The only downside for Saejima in Yakuza 5 is that you have to play through Saejima's story in Yakuza 5, and that's not a joke. And with that, we've reached the number 1 spot. And if you've been paying attention, you might already know what it is. But if you've managed to watch this far and haven't subscribed yet, be sure to headbutt that subscribe button. Seriously though, if you want more similar videos in the future on any topic regarding the Yakuza games, then let me know in the comments. But without further ado, it's finally time. Throughout the games, we've had dozens of fighting styles, some with lots of iterations, changes, or complete reworks. But no style has seen more changes than Kiryu's Dragon of Dojima. And for good reason. He's the main character, meant to take on challenges of all types. The real question is, which version of Dragon style is the strongest? For this list, it came down to 3 games. The first is Yakuza 0, but I decided against the Legend style because it takes too much work to unlock. Sure, the moment you get it, you instantly have all of its abilities, but I think having to earn the style is almost worse than having to upgrade it. And plus, nobody likes having to pause the game to swap styles. The second game I considered was Gaiden, but a few things made a mess of that one. First, finishing holds are locked to extreme heat, which is a stupid idea, and I can't believe they've repeated that with Kiwami 3, but I digress. Your abilities are pretty expensive most times, and in Gaiden, your juggle combos have a time limit where they just end suddenly, which makes juggle combos into depressing thoughts of what could have been. But there's one game that made Kiryu into a total monster. One where his power knows no bounds. Yakuza 5. First, since this is Yakuza 5, Kiryu benefits from the fear mechanic and can also get a second health bar just like Saejima. But unlike Saejima, Kiryu gets access to his training master early in the story. From Tosuke, you can learn all of the classic Komaki abilities, including Komaki Knockback, Komaki Parry, and Komaki Tiger Drop. And he also teaches you evade strikes. Komaki Knockback is a great defensive tool. Komaki Parry is ridiculously strong and sucks in attacks. And of course, Tiger Drop is a murder machine. And as mentioned with Saejima, Tiger Drop is a frame 1 attack. And also, say it with me, negates all damage. These tools make every 1v1 a wash, but Kiryu has a tougher time with crowds on higher difficulties. It's like I'm forgetting something important. Oh yeah, he also teaches you how to use the fuck you mode. Dragon Spirit, which is almost like the predecessor to Extreme Heat. You press R2 and enter a mode where you cannot take damage and just lay into your targets with repeated attacks. You can grab enemies to clear crowds and fly across long distances if enemies try to escape. Dragon Spirit will drain your heat gauge and end once it's depleted, but you can upgrade Dragon Spirit to gain heat during its use and also upgrade your total heat gauge to make it last way longer. Of course, this is all stalling and total nonsense because if you've played Yakuza 5, you know exactly why he's number 1. Unlocked at level 8 in your tech tree are bounding throws. This is fairly late, but in all honesty, this is the only upgrade you need, so just ignore the rest if you'd like. Bounding throws in most games either require you to be in heat mode or drain your heat when used. Most often, both at the same time. In Yakuza 5, for some odd reason, bounding throws can be used regardless of heat level and don't drain heat, but instead give heat. This means they are easily spammed in 1v1s and group fights. But there's more. The grab aspect of bounding throws only has one requirement, being that you land the heavy attack. If you hit the enemy with the heavy attack, the grab that follows will always succeed. And it just so happens that the hitboxes for attacks in this game are very generous. So generous that enemies on the floor can be hit by stray heavy attacks and instantly thrown back down to the floor, creating an infinite combo. This isn't even hard to do. It's easy for any player of any skill level, and any 1v1 in the entire game is ruined from this. In fact, the final boss can be taken from 100 to 0 with this. I won't show it because of spoilers, but trust me. Any character can be trapped forever with this method, but let's say for some reason you want something more interesting. How about wall splatting? Yakuza 5 introduced a new combat mechanic where if enemies are sent toward a wall in a certain manner, they will splat against the wall and stay there for your next attack to land easier. Wall splatting is a bit wonky and is hard to replicate, but if you're psychotic enough, wall splatting can be used to do even more infinite combos. I need to make this clear. Kiryu has so many infinite combo options that it's impossible to name them all. And I also want to note that technically Saejima can also do infinite combos with wall splatting, but his requires a lot more work and is harder to replicate, whereas with Kiryu, you can always just throw out a bounding throw and you're golden. With Kiryu, you get access to early overpowered moves, the ability to infinitely combo enemies with the easiest attacks imaginable, but can also be rewarded for skill expression if you want a challenge with the wall splats. You get a second health bar, easily make enemies afraid, can turn invulnerable, and to top it all off, your heat bar can constantly be filled by the broken bounding throws. Kiryu in Yakuza 5 is a perfect storm of awful balance and hilarious game mechanics, and is the strongest fighting style in the entire Yakuza series. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and if you think I was wrong about a placement, or if you think a different style belongs on this list, let me know. I've never done a video like this before, but if this is well received, I may just do more similar content in the future. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more silly Yakuza videos. Bye bye!